And good morning to all of you. In this video, we are going to cover all the news till now. So first of all, we are going to start through Yes Bank, and we found some news on Yes Bank that Yes Bank witnessed a strong upside during Friday. Yes Bank share price opened flat on Friday and remained sideways till 12:15 p.m. and then the stock started gaining momentum at noon and touched an intraday high of 27.05 on the NSE ahead of the closing bell. According to stock market expert, a post quarter one result 2025 business updates by the Yes Bank, the market expects that the private lenders profitability year may remain steady. They also believe that the asset quality of Yes Bank may remain healthy in upcoming quarters, which implies a low risk of default or bad loans. They advised Yes Bank shareholders to hold the script as it may touch 32 level ahead of the quarter one result 2024. Now we can see some news on Chinese Indian stocks favored over Japan in Asia's second half. About a third of 19 Asia-based strategists and fund managers surveyed informally by Bloomberg News said they see Chinese stocks outstripping most over the next 6 months. A similar number picked India as their top bet, while Japan was a distant third. Anticipated Federal Reserve interest rate cut seen acting as tailwinds for the two emerging markets, each of which offers its own unique narratives. To survey respondents preferred Chinese stocks for their low valuations and expected policy changes, while favoring Indian shares for their post-election optimism and relative immunity to geopolitical tensions. Now coming to the gold prices, what happened in gold price? So gold price climbs to 6-week high on Friday, rising optimism for US Fed rate cut, US dollar rate in focus. Rising optimism for the US Fed rate cut and weakness in the US dollar rates, gold price in the international market scaled to a 6-week high at the $2,391 per ounce mark. In the domestic market, gold futures contract on the multi-commodity exchange for the August 2024 expiry regained the psychological 73,000 mark by logging around 2% weekly gain in the week. On Friday's dealing, MCX gold rate was 671 per gram per 10 grams and finished at the 73,038 mark. Following weakness in the US dollar rate, silver prices ascended to a 4-week high and ended at $31.2 per ounce in the international market. Now we see some important levels in gold. So price structure suggests that the precious metal has found good support around 17,700 and then at 72,200 per 10 gram mark and looks to continue with the upward momentum towards 73,700 and 74,200 per 10 gram June or around $2,420 per ounce mark in the coming days by Sugandha said. Now coming to the US market, that what happened in the US market. So S&P 500 ends at record high as US stocks book weekly gains. US stocks finished higher Friday, with the S&P 500 notching a record high to close out a week of gains following the July 4th holiday. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 67.87 points or 0.2% to close at 39,375.87. The S&P 500 climbed 30.17 points or 0.5% to finish at 5,567.59. The Nasdaq Composite gained 164.46 points or 0.9% to end at 18,352.76. The S&P 500 books its 34th record close of 2024 while the Nasdaq logged its 24th all-time highs this year, closing to Dow Jones market data. The S&P 500 booked its 34th record close of 2024, while the Nasdaq logged its 24th all-time closing high this year according to Dow Jones market data. Now, some news on natural gas prices dropped nearly 11% while oil edges higher for the week. Natural gas futures posted a nearly 11% weekly drop on Friday, pressured by an apparent slowdown in demand that came ahead of the 4th of July holiday, and prices should be further declined, with Hurricane Barely forecast to hit parts of Texas, potentially slowing demand for the fuel. There may be power outages if Hurricane Barely hits Texas, and it's possible for tornadoes to spin off from hurricanes, said Beth Sewell, President and Chief Executive Officer at Quantum Gas and Power Services, that can cause a lot of damage to distribution systems, homes, lands, businesses, which can lead to a drop in natural gas demand. If we talk about the numbers, the natural gas continuous contract NG100 was now traded at 2,363 USD dollar. Sorry, 2.363 USD. Natural gas August 2024 was 2.330 USD. Crude oil at 83.44 dollar. Crude oil August 2024 was 83.44 dollar. Now, some closing well. US stocks climb toward closing well as treasury yields fall. All three major US stock benchmarks were off as they approached the closing bell on Friday, with gains led by the technology heavy Nasdaq Composite. The US market was off while treasury yields fell following the US jobs report released Friday morning ahead of the opening bell. The yield on the 10-year treasury note dropped 7.4% basis points on Friday to 4.272% according to Dow Jones market data. Rates on US government debt finished Friday's session with weekly declines amid signs of a cooling labor market and warning US growth. The 10 years yield declined 7 basis points to 4.272% this week. Meanwhile, the 30 years rate dropped 3.4% basis points to 4.468% for the week. Those are the biggest weekly declines in each yield since the period that ended on June 14 according to Dow Jones market data. Some news on airline stocks that shares of airline operators were suffering broad weakness led by those of lower cost carriers despite expectations of record July 4 holiday travel demand. The US Global Jets ETF said 2.3% to put it on track for the lowest close since February 5. The biggest loser of the bunch was Spirit Airlines stock, which tumbled 9.4% toward a record low close. Raymond James analyst Savanthi Short cut her rating on the discount domestic air carrier to underperform as the company faces a third quarter that is clear as mud, given potential for softer consumer trends, the Paris Olympics, and the impact from corporate travel ahead of the US elections. Frontier Group Holdings stock was also downgraded by Synth to underperform, which sent it down by 5.7% toward a 6-month low. Elsewhere, American Airlines Group stock fell 1% toward the lowest close since October 27, and shares of Southwest Airlines Corporation dropped 4.9% of United Airlines Holdings, including slide 3%, and or Delta Airlines including said 2.4%. All airline stocks are now in negative. Meta posts a big jump as big tech stocks rally, even as Nvidia falls. Big tech stocks were rallying Friday afternoon, with Facebook parent Meta Platforms including up around 4.5%, even as shares of chip maker Nvidia Corporation were falling. According to FactSet data at last check, Apple Microsoft, Google parent Alphabet, Amazon, and Tesla also each saw their shares rising sharply. Facts that data show, but Navdia stock was retreating in afternoon trading. The US market was mostly off Friday afternoon with the S&P 500 rising 0.5%, technology heavy Nasdaq composite advancing 0.9% and the Dow Jones Industrial Average trading about flat according to FactSet data at last check. Now coming to the some treasury yield. Friday's rally in US government debt following signs of a cooling jobs market was sending the policy sensitive. 2 years yield on its way to the lowest level in more than 3 months. The 2 year yield was down by about 8 basis points at 4.616%. That's around the lowest level since March 27, based on 3 p.m. Eastern Time figures from Dow Jones market data. The Dow Jones Industrial Average turned lower early afternoon Friday, giving up earlier gains as sharp drops in major Wall Street bank shares weighted on the blue chip stock market index. The Dow was trading down 0.1% while the S&P 500 was rising 0.3% and the technology heavy Nasdaq composite was up 0.7% according to FactSet data. Goldman Sachs Group and JP Morgan Chase were among the Dow worst performing stocks on Friday afternoon, with Goldman down 1.6% and JP Morgan falling around 1.4%. While the growth stocks are beating slumping value equities after job data, growth stocks in the US were beating value equity Friday's trading section as investors digested fresh data on the labor market. The Russell 1000 growth index was up 0.9% early afternoon Friday, while the Russell 1000 value index fell 0.5% according to FactSet data the last check. The largest Bitcoin ETF on pace for lowest close in 4 months. BlackRock's iShares Bitcoin Trust, the largest Bitcoin exchange trade fund in the US by assets under management, fell 6.6% to around $32.17 on Friday, on pace for its lowest close since February 26, according to Dow Jones market data. It's down 3 consecutive days with a 10.6% decline over this period, on pace for the worst 3 days crash since the 3 days ending May 1 when it fell 10.82%. IBIT shares fell as Bitcoin tumbled down, dropping to as low as $53,700 on Friday, the lowest level since late February. Now, Goldilocks labor market does not warrant Fed's restrictive monetary policy, says Lazard. The case for the Federal Reserve to start easing its monetary policy has strengthened following the latest US jobs report, according to Lazard's chief market strategist Ron Temple. Overall, it's Goldilocks labor market that is neither too hot nor too cold and does not warrant such restrictive monetary policy. Temple said in emailing comments Friday, unemployment remains low but has notched about 4% for the first time in 30 months, he said. Job creation in the US remains robust, even after slowing to 1,77,000 per month in the last quarter, according to Temple, and wage growth exceeds inflation but is near levels that would allow for achieving 2% inflation, he said, which is the Fed's target. Now, gold and silver prices on track to log 1 month high after downbeat job data. While one Wall Street strategist is down, publishing year-end-year target of S&P 500. One Wall Street macro strategist has declined